Hi everyone, I'm Will Gow. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to do some armchair traveling, and it's to Mongolia. Now, getting to Mongolia, especially from Canada, the route I took was Calgary, Vancouver to Incheon, South Korea, and then Mongolian Airlines into Ulanbattor. What I can tell you flying in is that Mongolian Airlines, great service. It would just rival anything in Canada. Being excited about the trip, I made a lot of rookie mistakes. And I'll tell you, and it's unforgivable for me this time, was I didn't have a lot of videos, and I should have taken more photos. Now, in my next trip, which will be the third trip into Mongolia, I'm going to rectify that. But for now, I still have a lot of material from Mongolia that I can share with you that you'll enjoy. Now, coming into Ulanbattor, at this time, they're building a brand new international airport, almost finished. But the current one they're still using is very small to serve as a population of 3.5 million, and close to the city of Ulanbattor, of 1.5 million close by. A lot of pressure on that one small airport. But in a few years, more international flights will be coming in. Now, I didn't know until I got there, when I arrived late at night at midnight. I didn't see much of Ulanbattor. But on my first work assignment, I met the team in the morning in the hotel, and we were going to take a twice weekly flight that goes out to the Dornat province, Chobasan. And fortunately, the planes weren't flying. So automatically, get a driver, and we drove. Full 8-hour trip. And what I experienced in that 8 hours was unbelievable. I'm watching for full 8 hours a constant view of the steppe landscape. There were horses, sheep, cattle, camels everywhere. It was a sight to see, such open sky and freedom. Now, one of the first sights that I saw, about 50 kilometers outside the capital, was the gigantic statue of Genghis Khan on a horse. 131 feet high, 40 meters high. It is a spectacular and massive sight for this statue. And if there's one sight to see, this would be it. You know, highlighting and also showcasing their heritage. Great stop to make. When I go back again, I'm going to spend a little more time around that site. Now, as we continue, the first city stop that we make is Chinggis City. Now, Chinggis City is, of course, named after Genghis Khan, but it's supposedly within the region of the birthplace of Genghis Khan. Small community, 10,000 population, but enjoy some great luncheon meals. It's pretty close to the halfway point to our destination of the Dornat province. Now, the Dornat province is the most easterly province of Mongolia, of the 25 provinces, which they refer to as AMEGs. Now, it borders onto China and Inner Mongolia. So I'm arriving into Dornat, into the capital of the Chobasan, approximately 40,000 population. And it didn't take me long, a few weeks, that I realized that I'm one of the few Westerners in this population. The only Westerners I ran across were a couple of Peace Corps workers and, some occasional tourists that you'd see go wandering by. So it was a little different being in a community when you're one of the few Westerners that are in that area. But you do look treated exceptionally well. Mongolians, I find, inventive, professional. They don't come across inquisitive, but they've got a great sense of humor when you get to know them. And I've made some great friends in Mongolia. Now, the Dornat province, known for raising of the horses, and also it's what I did some more research in. It's in one of the few areas where you have a lot of potential archaeological digs, and of course, you've got the areas of the steppes for raising sheep and cattle, horses. Now, I have shared the other video that I have on there that the Mongolians move anywhere from 4 to 5, 6 times a year. Depends on where they're going to find water in the pasture. So they're constantly on the move. But when you go visit a family and spend time with the family, they're most welcoming. And the sight I like to see when I spend time into what they call the gers, and behind me on my mantle, you'll see one of the few tourist trinkets I could find of a ger, is that they have a system of combining, new car, motorcycles, but they also have camels and horses for transportation. So they're able to mix and match. Solar panels in order to recharge their batteries. And I don't know the exact number, but I think most families would raise anywhere a few thousand head of cattle, sheep, and goats. And it's important to them. But 25% of the Mongolian population is made up of agricultural nomadic. Huge impact, going back centuries in terms of this culture. Now, in my time in Chobasan, when I was working on my work assignment, is that you get to meet a lot of people, you get to share a lot of their cultures, and it was great. Now, one of the couple trips I took was about 100 miles, or 100 kilometers outside of Chobasan, closer to the inner Mongolia border with China, was one tower. And it's from it's called Ulanbattor. And that tower represents what's left of a large city that once existed, nearly 1,000 years ago. And of course, through successive battles, between the Mongols and the Khitan people of that region, that's what's left. And I stood there and literally on a 360-degree look around, and there's nothing on the horizons anywhere to see other than this one left 15-foot high tower. Amazing. Now, traveling out there by 4x4 was exceptional. Gazelles, sheep, again, cattle, horse. I can't say enough. It's just fascinating. Now, on the return, I also had an opportunity to skirt the old battlefield, and I never got to see it. Next trip, I'd like to go see it. The old battlefield in 1939 between the Japanese and the Soviets and the Mongolians. Now, this is an important battle because it's highly celebrated within Chobasan, the capital of the Donab province, because close to the inner Mongolian border, probably about 150 kilometers away from Chobasan, you had this 1939, just prior to World War II, you had this incursion by the Japanese. And the numbers, I may not be correct in this, but I'm going to say they had 20 to 30,000 Japanese troops coming into Mongolia at the time. And they were defeated by a combination of the Soviet and the Mongolian army at the time. And the Mongolians, many were fighting on horseback. So it's interesting to see how they took their horseback culture and they incorporated it into that major battle. And that's substantial. In history, it turned the tide because it set the Japanese on a course prior to World War II of where were they going to direct their attention. So when you study about that battle, you'll find that it did have an effect on the starting World War II. Now, coming out of Chobasan is the next province over, and that one is Ulanbattor province. And the capital of Ulanbattor province is Buran-Urt, another small provincial capital. Great little place that I stayed. Made a lot of acquaintances and some great friends there that, again, when I go back, I'll get to see them. On that particular trip, by coincidence, I was able to meet and have my photographs taken with the Prime Minister of Mongolia. That was a good highlight of that particular trip. Now, Ulanbattor province has got two major, I'm going to say, tourist attractions. They're known for their smithing abilities, and they make a lot of the traditional silver bowls that the Mongolians use for a lot of their ceremonies. And the other thing that the region's known for is they have over 220 extinct volcanoes in that area. I want to get back, I want to explore that more. It's a fascinating region that's on the edge of the Gobi Desert. We're not even close to the Gobi Desert yet. Now, you may not know that it was after 70 years of socialistic policies and rule, by 1990, through a peaceful transfer of power, Mongolia became a democracy, two-party system. So between Soviet China and you've got this oasis of democracy that is encouraged, and both by Canada, Australia, and the U.S. as partners. They refer to it as a third neighbor policy. And Mongolians, you may not be aware, have participated in a lot of the NATO exercises. And I ran to a number of Army officers that were in Mongolia that confirmed that they had been participating in some of the, in Afghanistan and Sierra Leone and a few other areas, that in assistance with a lot of our Western armies. So that was news to me. You find it out now. So Canada has a major impact. I'll tell you where other impacts Canada has. Canada has an impact in terms of the Mongolians like the way that we do our governance. They like they're a big promoter of gender equality and gender equity. They also are now becoming more and more technologically and moving towards digitalization. So I expect that with probably less than 10 years, the entire country is going to be totally digitized. So because they're getting a lot of influence from Estonia, and that's helping them out a lot. So you'll find that the Canadians have some impact and influence within the region. One of the largest mines in the world is partially owned by Canadians, the Australian government, and the Mongolian government. That's located very, very in or close to the Gobi Desert. So I hope you enjoy some of the presentations and some of the video and photos that I can share with you today. And stay tuned for part 2 of the trip in Mongolia.